Ethan Blake tugged the collar of his faded denim jacket higher, trying to obscure his face. He exhaled slowly, stepping out of his rental car, parked a few blocks away from Elysian Elegance, a high-end boutique. This wasn't just any store. It was part of the luxury empire he had painstakingly built. Today, however, he wasn't Ethan Blake, the CEO. He was just another potential customer, one likely to be dismissed at a glance. The reports had been consistent: a dip in customer service quality. A few employees had grown complacent, judging customers based on their appearance instead of upholding the brand's reputation for exceptional service. Ethan wasn't one to jump to conclusions based on hearsay. He needed to witness the situation firsthand. Dressed in well-worn jeans, scuffed boots, and a simple denim jacket, Ethan walked through the boutique's entrance. The rich aroma of imported leather and subtle, expensive perfumes hung in the air, mingling with the soft melodies of classical music. Elysian Elegance was a shrine to refined taste. Sleek glass displays showcased designer shoes, handbags, and jewelry, all bathed in soft, flattering light. It was a place where patrons often arrived in impeccably tailored suits and designer dresses, expecting, and usually receiving, the utmost reverence. Ethan's eyes scanned the store, taking in the staff. He spotted a young man leaning against a display of handcrafted wallets, absorbed in his phone. His name tag read Tyler. Ethan walked towards him, stopping near the wallet display. "Excuse me," Ethan said, his voice even and polite. "Could you help me? I'm looking for a new wallet." Tyler barely looked up from his phone. "Those are all pretty pricey," he mumbled, his tone indifferent. He finally raised his eyes, giving Ethan a quick, appraising look. His lips curled slightly. "You sure you're looking for something like that?" Ethan suppressed a flicker of annoyance. He'd anticipated this response, but experiencing it firsthand left a sour taste in his mouth. He nodded. "Yeah, could you show me a few options?" Tyler sighed dramatically, putting his phone down on the counter with the exaggerated reluctance of someone being forced to perform a Herculean task. He disappeared into the back room without a word. Ethan stood there, waiting. Instead of returning promptly, Tyler took his time. Ethan could see him through the slightly ajar door, chatting casually with another employee, both chuckling about something, presumably him. Some guy in a jacket wants a leather wallet. Like he's going to buy that, Tyler scoffed, his voice carrying just enough for Ethan to hear. Ethan clenched his jaw, fighting to maintain his composure. He had built his company on the principles of integrity and respect. He was witnessing how easily those principles could be eroded. After several long minutes, Tyler emerged empty-handed. "Sorry, nothing that I think you could afford," he said flatly. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Really? Did you check?" Tyler rolled his eyes. "Look, man, I know what we have in stock. Maybe try somewhere cheaper." His smirk was subtle but unmistakable. Before Ethan could reply, a burst of warm laughter and friendly conversation drew his attention. At the cash register, a young woman with long, auburn hair tied back in a neat braid was assisting a well-dressed couple. Her name tag read Olivia. She radiated professionalism and genuine warmth. "Of course, Mr. Henderson," she said, her tone smooth and courteous. "I'll have this gift wrapped for you right away. And if you'd like, I can arrange for complimentary delivery to your residence." The contrast was stark. While Tyler oozed disinterest and condescension, Olivia embodied everything Elysian Elegance should stand for: excellence and customer-first service. Ethan turned back to Tyler. "All right," he said, feigning resignation. "Maybe I'll look at something else." As he walked away from the wallet display, he felt Tyler's eyes on his back, no doubt already dismissing him as another unimportant customer. But Ethan wasn't leaving. He was just getting started. Ethan wandered through the store, his footsteps light on the polished marble floor, but his mind weighed down with frustration. Every detail of the experience so far confirmed his worst suspicions. There were cracks in his company's culture, and those cracks were widening. He stopped near the jewelry section, pretending to browse cufflinks while discreetly observing the employees around him. Most seemed indifferent, absorbed in their own conversations or their phones. None approached him to offer assistance. He wasn't expecting special treatment, but basic courtesy should be standard regardless of someone's appearance. As he reached to inspect a silver tie clip, Ethan overheard hushed voices coming from nearby. His ears perked up at the mention of the earlier encounter. "Did you see the guy talking to Tyler?" a low, mocking voice said. Another employee, a tall man with slicked back hair, spoke in a hushed tone, but with unmistakable disdain. Looked like he walked straight out of a thrift store. Tyler's familiar chuckle followed. "Yeah, man, he was asking about the leather wallets." "Seriously? I mean, I could tell just by looking at him, he's just wasting time. Probably just here for the air conditioning or to take some pictures for Instagram." The casual cruelty in their voices burned hotter than any angry outburst could have. Ethan's hand tightened on the tie clip, his knuckles whitening. What stung wasn't the insult to his appearance. He had intentionally dressed down for this experiment, but the realization that this wasn't an isolated incident. If Tyler and his colleagues spoke this way, so casually, how many genuine customers had they dismissed or ridiculed in a similar fashion? Ethan took a deep breath, steadying himself. He couldn't blow his cover just yet. Determined, he made his way to the cash register. Olivia was still there, finishing up the purchase for the affluent couple from earlier. Her professionalism was impeccable, every gesture and word carefully measured, yet genuinely warm. When it was finally his turn, Ethan placed a simple, inexpensive keyring on the counter. Olivia glanced up and smiled, and unlike Tyler's forced smirk, hers was sincere. "Good afternoon, sir. I hope you found everything you were looking for," she asked warmly. Ethan nodded, matching her friendly demeanor. "Yeah, this will do, I think. Thanks for your help." Olivia began ringing up the purchase, treating him with the same respect and attentiveness she had offered the high-profile clients before him. No hint of judgment in her gaze, no trace of the disdain that had laced Tyler's voice. "Would you like me to gift wrap it for you?" she offered. "That won't be necessary, but I appreciate it," Ethan replied, smiling. In that moment, his decision was made. The problem wasn't systemic, not yet. There were good employees here, like Olivia, who upheld the brand's values. But bad apples like Tyler threatened to spoil the entire culture of the store if left unchecked. After completing the purchase, Ethan headed toward the manager's office. The door was slightly ajar, and he knocked firmly before stepping in. David Miller, the store manager, looked up from his desk, his sharp suit a testament to the brand's high standards. His neatly styled hair and polished demeanor suggested someone who took his job seriously, at least on the surface. "Can I help you?" David asked, his tone polite but laced with the practiced distance reserved for handling customer complaints. Ethan closed the door behind him and pulled back his jacket hood, revealing his face. The transformation was immediate. David's eyes widened, his posture stiffened, and his voice dropped in tone. "Mr. Blake," he stammered, clearly blindsided. "Yes, David. We need to talk," Ethan said, his voice low but commanding. David swallowed hard. "Of course. What's the issue?" "The issue," Ethan began, his voice steady but tinged with disappointment, "is your staff. I came here undercover today because I've received multiple complaints about how customers are being treated in this store. I hope those reports were exaggerated. Unfortunately, what I witnessed today confirmed every single one of those concerns." David's face paled. I wasn't aware there was a serious problem, sir." "That's the problem, David." Ethan cut in, his tone sharp. "You should have been aware. I was ignored, belittled, and outright mocked by one of your employees, with another being the most obvious offender. If they can treat someone like me, in disguise, this poorly, imagine how they're treating actual customers who don't fit the profile of a high spender." David nodded quickly, his voice shaky. "I'll handle it immediately." "No, this isn't something you handle quietly," Ethan interrupted, his frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "I want a meeting scheduled with every employee immediately. I'll be addressing the staff personally." Without giving David a chance to object, Ethan turned and left the office, his mind already racing through what needed to be said. This wasn't just about punishing Tyler. It was about sending a message, loud and clear, that the culture of Elysian elegance was built on respect, not judgment based on appearance. Within 30 minutes, the staff had gathered in the employee lounge. The air was thick with tension. Tyler shifted uncomfortably near the back, likely sensing something was wrong. Ethan stood at the front of the room, arms crossed, his piercing gaze sweeping over every face. "I came here today not as your CEO, but as a customer," Ethan began, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "And what I experienced was unacceptable. Some of you treated me based on my appearance alone, as if I didn't deserve the basic courtesy every customer should receive." His eyes locked onto Tyler, who immediately looked away. "This isn't just about one or two employees. It's about the culture we foster here." Ethan continued, "From now on, every single one of you will undergo customer service retraining. Discrimination of any kind, whether it's based on appearance, assumptions about wealth, or anything else, will not be tolerated. If anyone thinks they're too good for this standard, you're welcome to leave now." No one moved. Silence stretched heavy in the air. And to those who did do their jobs correctly, Olivia, for example, know that your professionalism doesn't go unnoticed. You are the standard this brand was built on. Olivia's eyes widened in surprise, her cheeks tinged with a light blush as she realized she was being praised directly by the CEO himself. Ethan's voice softened, but remained firm. "We can't build a successful company without respect, for our customers and for each other. I expect better, and from today forward, I will be watching." With that, he left the room, leaving the weight of his words lingering in the stunned silence behind him. The room remained heavy with silence long after Ethan had left. The employees, once confident in their complacency, now sat rigid with the gravity of his words. Tyler's face had drained of all color, his earlier smugness replaced with an unmistakable sense of dread. Olivia, on the other hand, sat quietly near the front, her cheeks still warm from Ethan's unexpected praise. She had done nothing extraordinary, in her eyes, only her job. But the validation from the CEO himself made her feel proud in a way that no customer service award ever had. Meanwhile, Ethan retreated to David's office, his frustration replaced by a deep, lingering disappointment. It wasn't anger that drove him. It was the fear that the culture he had worked so hard to instill was eroding beneath him. David followed him inside, closing the door gently behind them. His voice was low and apologetic. "Mr. Blake, I had no idea things had gotten this bad. If I had, you would have done something sooner," Ethan finished for him, turning to face the manager with a sharp, unwavering gaze. "That's the problem, David. You should have known. It's your job to know. You're responsible for the culture in this store, and from what I've seen today, you've let it slip through your fingers." David swallowed hard, the weight of his failures sinking in. "I'll make it right, sir. I'll oversee the retraining myself." "No," Ethan interrupted. His tone wasn't harsh, but it left no room for argument. "I'll be implementing a company-wide program, one that goes beyond basic retraining. Every employee, in every branch, will undergo comprehensive workshops on customer service, empathy, and inclusion. And I expect you to lead by example, David. That means you'll be the first to complete it." David nodded quickly, relief washing over his face that he still had a chance to make amends. "Understood, Mr. Blake." Ethan let out a small sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose as he considered the bigger picture. This isn't just about disciplining bad behavior. It's about rebuilding the culture from the ground up. Every customer who walks into this store, whether they're wearing designer suits or a denim jacket, deserves the same respect. If we lose that, we lose everything that makes this brand worth something. The next day, Ethan returned to the store, this time dressed in his usual sharp suit, the embodiment of authority and success. A meeting had been scheduled with the entire staff, and the atmosphere was thick with tension as employees gathered once again in the lounge. This time, Ethan didn't speak immediately. He let the silence linger, allowing the weight of their actions and inactions to settle on their shoulders. "Yesterday was a wake-up call for all of us," Ethan began, his voice calm but firm. "Some of you may have believed that judging customers by their appearance is harmless. Maybe you thought that those who didn't look wealthy weren't worth your time. But let me be clear, That mindset ends now. His gaze swept the room, landing briefly on Tyler, whose head was bowed low, unable to meet Ethan's eyes. Respect isn't reserved for those who look like they can afford our products. It's the foundation of this company, something I built with the belief that luxury isn't just about the items we sell, but the experience we offer every person who walks through our doors. There was a pause, and then Ethan shifted his focus to Olivia, who sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. "Olivia, please stand." Olivia blinked, surprised by the request, but rose to her feet with quiet dignity. "This is what professionalism looks like," Ethan continued. "In every interaction, you upheld the values of this company, without knowing who I was, without expecting recognition. You treated me, a stranger in worn clothes, with the same respect you gave to our wealthiest clients." Olivia's cheeks flushed again, but this time pride shone in her eyes. "As a token of appreciation for your dedication, I'm promoting you to assistant manager, effective immediately." A collective murmur rippled through the room, and Olivia's eyes widened in disbelief. "Thank you, sir. I don't know what to say. Just keep doing your job the way you've been doing it," Ethan said with a small, genuine smile. The moment was a stark contrast to the uncomfortable tension that had dominated the room just moments earlier. The other employees sat a little straighter, realizing that genuine effort and professionalism didn't go unnoticed after all. Turning back to the group, Ethan's voice grew serious once more. "As for those of you who fell short of expectations, this is your chance to change. Everyone here will undergo retraining. You'll learn not just how to sell luxury items, but how to embody the values this brand was founded upon: respect, inclusivity, and integrity." His eyes found Tyler, who was now visibly sweating. "If you can't meet those standards, you won't have a place in this company." Tyler swallowed hard and nodded, mumbling, "Yes, sir." In the weeks that followed, Ethan kept his promise. He visited stores across the country unannounced, making sure every branch understood that the message wasn't just for one store, it was for the entire organization. The retraining program rolled out in full force, focusing on empathy, unconscious bias, and customer service excellence. Olivia thrived in her new role, proving to be a natural leader who helped reshape the store's culture from within. Under her influence, even employees like Tyler showed signs of improvement, their previous arrogance replaced with genuine professionalism. But Ethan wasn't finished. Months later, he returned to the Los Angeles store, once again dressed in plain clothes, blending into the crowd of customers. This time, the experience was different. Every employee, whether they recognized him or not, greeted him with a smile, offered assistance, and treated him with respect. He approached the wallet section, where Tyler, now noticeably more professional, stood ready to assist. "Can I help you find something today, sir?" Tyler asked, his tone polite and genuinely attentive. Ethan gave a small smile, nodding in approval. "Just browsing for now, thank you." As he left the store that day, Ethan felt something he hadn't in a long time: pride. Not in the brand, the luxury products, or the success of his business, but in the people who made it possible. He knew there would always be challenges, but as long as respect remained at the heart of Elysian elegance, his company would continue to stand for something far more valuable than wealth. After all, every person, CEO or customer, deserved to be treated with dignity. And now, his company finally reflected that truth.